Hey folks, welcome back. It's everyone's favorite time of year again, the end of it. A time for reflection for everything that happened, and also mostly the stuff that didn't happen. You know, there are lots of things that I wish I had done differently this year, but at least I didn't get rid of the manga Bible. I'm telling you, this thing's gonna pay for itself one of these days. 2020, huh? It's been, but you know what always cheers me up during tough times? Lists. I've always wanted to do some sort of top 10 list about video games, but no one's ever really cared about my opinion prior to now. Frankly, it's debatable as to whether or not anyone actually cares about my opinion even now, but whatever, this isn't about you, it's about me. Now before I begin, allow me to establish somewhat of a disclaimer. This isn't a list of games that came out this year. I can't afford to be throwing around $90 every time a new game comes out. I generally prefer to wait like a year or two and, get it on sale when the price goes down to a reasonable number. This is simply a top 10 list of games I played this year, and that only includes games I played for the first time. There's also no HD remasters. Remakes are, a whole different thing, but if it's just you take the game and you make the colors look better, that obviously doesn't count. I played Dark Souls Remastered this year, but it's just Dark Souls with less film grain. But enough f***ing around, let's go. It's top 10 time, baby. The Resident Evil 2 remake that came out last year is one of my favorite video games of all time. So suffice to say I was really f***ing excited for this Resident Evil 3 remake. So is it as good as the Resident Evil 2 remake? No. What are you, stupid? Okay, look, it may not be on the same level as Resident Evil 2, but the Resident Evil 3 remake is still an awesome game. It's much shorter than Resident Evil 2, similar to how the original PS1 game was kinda short, but it's basically the Resident Evil 2 remake's formula with the story and setting of Resident Evil 3. One thing I actually like better about Resident Evil 3 over Resident Evil 2 is the design of the environments, specifically the way that Raccoon City looks. It's very true to the original game's Raccoon City while still having a modern look to it. Another thing I love about this game is the fact that it takes place right before the events of Resident Evil 2, so a lot of things that happen in 3 provide context for 2. One of my favorite examples is this hole in the wall in the Raccoon City Police Department. When you play Resident Evil 2, it's safe to assume that big ol' mean Mr. X is responsible for the hole, but when you play Resident Evil 3, you find out that it was actually made by our boy Carlos. That said though, I think Mr. X is an example of something that's better about the Resident Evil 2 remake. Right when you first see him, he's constantly on your tail chasing you. Even when you can't see him, he's somewhere in the police station looking for you. You would think it would be a no-brainer to do this for Nemesis, but no. He kinda just shows up during scripted parts and he's not usually very difficult to escape from. Given that Nemesis is like the whole theme of the game, I think they should have used technology we have now to make him stalking you at all times. It would have made him a lot scarier. But overall, it's a very fun game and it's aesthetically gorgeous. It was a lot of fun to experience this classic PS1 title in a new way. Layers of Fear is a game. Okay, look, yeah, the game is a walking simulator, I admit it, leave me alone. Walking simulators aren't always bad though. The appeal of Layers of Fear isn't to be this groundbreaking gameplay masterpiece, it's more of a showcase of psychological horror. It's basically a nice little jaunt through an old Victorian house, except the old Victorian house is actually a non-linear nightmarish hellscape that seems to have a mind of its own. It's basically a story about a disturbed painter who struggles from some sort of psychosis, both caused by and leading to alcohol abuse. You're basically just supposed to keep going, and as you progress through the house, it's constantly changing and evolving as you walk through it. Oftentimes you'll walk to a dead end, and really the only way to progress is just to turn around, since a door probably appeared behind you. One of my favorite things about this game is how it makes you think about how to progress. Once you've been playing for long enough, it becomes second nature to take into consideration the fact that the solution might be as simple as looking at a wall that didn't have anything on it to begin with. In general, there isn't really much of anything that can hurt you. Occasionally you'll get killed by a ghost, but I'm pretty sure that actually has to happen to progress in the game. But regardless, I think Layers of Fear is a very cool visual horror experience. If you like the occasional spooking, give her a shot, buddy. Ever since Dark Souls became the most popular video game of all time, it's almost become a genre in itself. Everyone's always trying to take the Dark Souls formula and adapt it into different styles. It's to the point where it's like a joke to compare something to Dark Souls. Crash Bandicoot is the Dark Souls of 3D platformers. Cuphead is the Dark Souls of 2D platformers with Cup Guys. Breath of the Wild is the Dark Souls of video games. Real life is the Minecraft of Dark Souls. Like, what is going on anymore? Usually the easy translation for this bullshit is, it's hard. The game is difficult. One of these games that everyone was like, oh my god, it's just like Dark Souls, is Blasphemous. And I mean, it's not entirely wrong. It's unfortunate that comparing something to Dark Souls has completely lost all meaning, because Blasphemous does actually share a lot in common with Dark Souls. It's a tough-as-nails Metroidvania game that focuses very strongly on combat, rewarding the player for attacking during openings rather than just wailing on everything without thinking. But I don't think it would be fair to equate the appeal of Blasphemous purely to being similar to Dark Souls, because it's an amazing game on its own. The combat is fast and satisfying, and the movement and platforming is tight and responsive, yet challenging. Not even to mention the atmosphere. The environments have a depressing, dark aesthetic, and the character models and monsters are all creepy and stylized. It really gives off the feel that this world is one that's broken and plagued by disease and misfortune. The game has this medieval Spanish Catholic theme to everything. It's very heavily influenced by Christianity, particularly the more disturbing aspects of the Bible, like terrifying and monstrous manifestations of sin. Basically what I'm saying is, if there is a hell, this is what it looks like. I also think it's worth noting that the game was actually developed by the Game Kitchen, a studio based in Spain. So it's cool to see so much influence from Spanish culture coming from Spanish people themselves. I love when creative people use creative mediums to spread awareness of their cultures. Basically what I'm saying is, Blasphemous, very cool, very neat, I like it, check it out. When Code Vein came out and everyone was like, it's anime Dark Souls with vampires, I was like, say no more, Chief, I'm on board. Alright, hell yeah, sign me up, nice. I'm on, get me, one way, hell. Okay, look, I know I just went on a rant about how stupid comparing everything to Dark Souls is, but like, come on, Code Vein is literally the exact style of Dark Souls. And to be fair, it was developed and published by Bandai Namco, the same company that published Dark Souls. And the developers literally cited Dark Souls as an influence for the gameplay. Look, I'm a simple man. You put vampires in it, I'm on board. If this were a top 10 list of TV shows I watched this year, it would contain Buffy the Vampire Slayer and nothing else. But all that aside, Code Vein is a very good game. It's very challenging and fast-paced. It's definitely got an anime-style plot. It's got this whole confusing post-apocalyptic thing where monsters have taken over the world. And it also has that thing where it's like, oh, we're not vampires, we're revenants. We're just undead and feed on the blood of humans and can only be killed by destroying our hearts. They're vampires. Like, they're vampires. Let's be real here. But for real, this game rules. It's got JRPG elements like a job system. Although you can change jobs on the fly, which is super neat. It allows you to experience the game in lots of different ways if you want to. Of course, I have a minimally developed monkey brain and I like to just hit things with big weapon, so I generally stick with the Berserker class. But I think this interchangeable job system allows the player to have a lot of flexibility with how they experience the game in one playthrough. Also, you always have a pal hanging out with you who fights enemies, and they just won't shut the fuck up. Okay, to be fair, at first I was like, God, stop talking, but once confronted with the ability to turn off their dialogue, I decided I kinda liked having someone chatting with me during the game. Man, that's as sad as it sounds, isn't it? Oh boy, finally a game on this list that came out this year! Oh. Yeah, who the f*** knew, eh? Among Us came out in 2018 and just sort of sat there for 2 years until suddenly blowing up for no reason. It's kind of funny because when I first played it, I thought, man, this kind of seems like a ripoff of the Jackbox game Push the Button. I mean, it's basically the same thing. You're on a spaceship and you have to deduce which two crewmates are actually aliens and launch them into space. Hell, Among Us even has a giant panic button that you can call a meeting with. But Push the Button came out on Jackbox Party Pack 6, which came out a year after Among Us. So congratulations, Inner Sloth. You have achieved what every indie developer hopes to strive for, to be ripped off by a bigger development studio. Man, who would have thought lying to people would be such a blast? Maybe that's why people do it to me all the time. I definitely don't need to go into why Among Us is so good. It's a ton of fun to argue with each other and try to figure out who's the imposter. And when you are the imposter, there's something thrilling about trying to trick people into believing you. When you pull off the ultimate heist and win the game as an imposter, you feel like an evil mastermind. It's no surprise that this game turned half the human population into sociopaths. But obviously the most fun thing about this game is, I get to play with my friends.
Mute your fucking mic!
Yeah, of all years, 2020 was a very good time to have such an exciting new online multiplayer game. I think a lot of the game's popularity also has to do with its visuals though. These little dudes are adorable. Look at their little bouncy walk, and you can put all kinds of cute outfits and hats on them. If anyone cares, I like to go with orange and wear simply a little toque. Very handsome. It's got a very cute design and a very silly and subtle sense of humor. It's just great, I love Among Us, God bless. Usually when games try to be every genre at once, it doesn't work out. Nier Automata is not one of those games. This game is an open world game, top-down shoot 'em up, a hack and slash, an RPG, a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, Star Fox. Not only is this game a ton of fun, but I was surprised to find how emotionally provoking it is. Nier Automata asks, can machines feel? Playing through this game, I found myself thinking, man, 2B is kind of a bitch, but then I realized that she puts on a cold and unapproachable outward appearance as a coping mechanism because she's afraid to develop relationships because she doesn't want to have to lose the people she became close to. That shit's sad, bro. The game has a somber presentation, but it's also gorgeous visually. The cool thing about having a game take place so long after the apocalypse is that it doesn't need to have this panic, depressing zombie apocalypse kind of vibe. The planet in Nier Automata has been uninhabited by humans for so long that the planet is simply in ruin. I love that all the buildings have been taken over by vegetation. The beautiful orchestral music with the futuristic but toned down sci-fi elements, along with a lovable cast of characters, it really all just comes together to make a memorable and meaningful experience. You know, it can occasionally be difficult to take the game seriously given that 2B is caked up and wearing a thong all the time. But you know, the other stuff I said is pretty cool. Okay, you stupid motherfuckers, forget all that pussy-ass atmospheric somber bullshit about Nier Automata, because we're going heads-on, full speed into Mega Man goddamn X. Mega Man X is full stop, no argument, one of the best video games ever made. The classic Mega Man games were already absolute classics, but when people started to get a little tired, Capcom decided to take the formula and turn it up as high as it would go. It's like old school Mega Man, but times 1,000. The game is lightning fast and gives you so many movement options, and it also gives you a tough as nails but always fair challenge. It's also full of dope upgrades that make platforming and combat more fun. It's one of those games where you play through it, and then when you start a second playthrough, you get your ass absolutely handed to you because you're used to being so overpowered with all the upgrades. The bosses are all unique and pose their own challenge, unless you use your big brain and figure out their weakness. And then you say, haha Mega Man X, I've cracked your code, you stupid game, you're not even real. Don't even get me started on the music, man. This game probably has the best soundtrack of any game I have ever played. These guys were out here making music on a video game less powerful than my coffee maker, and they pumped out heavy metal rock jam after heavy metal rock jam. You got Armored Armadillo, Boomer Kuwanger, Storm Eagle with that guitar riff at the beginning, and my personal favorite track, Sting Chameleon Stage. And that's just scratching the surface, man. Seriously, if you got a Super Nintendo or a copy of Mega Man X Collection, slam that in, man. There's nothing like Mega Man X. Super Metroid is one of my favorite games of all time. Everything about it is amazing. I love the atmosphere, the exploration, the music, the visuals. It's just a masterpiece. So naturally, when I went into Metroid Prime, I thought, can they smoothly transition the Super Metroid formula into 3D? Of course, yeah. Metroid Prime is fucking awesome. Metroid Prime is one of the best GameCube games. It's really amazing how Retro Studios managed to perfectly adapt Metroid into a first-person shooter. Being that first-person shooters sort of have this generally accepted control scheme, that being move with the left stick and aim with the right stick, it was kind of jarring at first to play Metroid Prime because it doesn't work like that. It basically works with tank controls, which seems stupid, but trust me, Metroid Prime controls like a dream. Being in first person did not hinder Metroid's nature as an exploration-focused game either. It's still the kind of game that makes you want to scour the map and go to places you've already been just to find upgrades and stuff. One of my favorite things about Metroidvanias like Metroid and Blasphemous is going back to an early part of the game and absolutely destroying enemies that gave you so much trouble at the beginning of the game. It really just puts into perspective how far you've come and how much you've achieved. That's growth, baby! Metroid Prime doesn't quite impress me as much as Super Metroid, but I don't think the Second Coming of Christ could impress me as much as Super Metroid. But Metroid Prime's a good game, that's what I'm getting at. Throughout the years, man has wondered, just what do I have to do to make the greatest JRPG of all time? Well, are you currently in the process of making Chrono Trigger? No? Then give up. I feel like I don't even need to say anything about Chrono Trigger, but I'm going to anyway. Chrono Trigger is, for good reason, widely considered to be one of the greatest games ever made. It comes from the golden era of Squaresoft. You know, back when they made games that people actually care about. Chrono Trigger is so unbelievably ahead of its time. It's only in the last few years that developers have started to realize that people don't really like shit like random battles and tedious, repetitive level grinding. Meanwhile, you got Chrono Trigger released all the way back in fucking 1935 and it has none of that garbage. You pretty much don't have to level grind at all, because your team levels up together and the progression of the game is such that you level evenly as you go. And there's no random battles because all the monsters are on the screen. You can avoid them if you try hard enough. Plus, the battle system is so much fun. You're rewarded for switching up your party members to play as different characters because the characters learn special abilities that they can do together. Dropping a triple attack on a boss is dope, get out of here. On that note is the amazing cast of characters. Every character in this game is lovable and full of personality, and none of them are useless. They're all equally viable in battle, which just makes you love them even more. And that's not even it, man. There's the music, and Akira Toriyama doing the art, and Jesus. Okay, look, I need to cut this short because if I don't, it'll just be a 45-minute video about why Chrono Trigger is the best game ever made. Just stop what you're doing and go play Chrono Trigger. It's so good. Finish the video first, please. Alright folks, I'm gonna get a little real with you here. So if you don't want to watch a 24-year-old man get emotional about a video game made for children, go watch CSI Miami or something. That's still on, I think. For those of you who have been on Mars all year and are just now returning to Earth, allow me to catch you up to speed. For the most part, 2020 has been characterized by the fact that a highly infectious, potentially deadly disease has been spreading around and has caused the entire world to shut down, canceling events, closing stores, making people lose their minds about all kinds of stuff. Seemingly overnight, the very fabric of our society completely flipped on its head, and just the whole world operated in a new way that nobody understood, and it was very scary and concerning. I feel like everybody, including myself, has kind of adjusted because, like, obviously, you know, we're 9-10 months into this, so it's just become kind of the new normal, right? But when this first started, it was insane. It was a nightmare. It was terrifying. However, right at the beginning of all this craziness, there was one thing that helped millions of people cope with the whole staying inside and avoiding other people thing. And that thing was Animal Crossing New Horizons. I adore the Animal Crossing series. Truth be told, the only ones I've ever played are New Leaf and New Horizons, but they are two of the most fun experiences I've ever had in my life. There are very few games that can just pull me in and completely envelop my life like Animal Crossing can. It's so simple but so much fun at the same time. You get this delightful cast of neighbors, all of whom have their own little silly catchphrases and personalities. You got the lazy villagers who come up to you and they're just like, yo, I love donuts, we should eat donuts together. And then you got the jock villagers who just pull up to you and they're like, bro, your delts are looking sick as today, dude. Like I said, the game isn't perfect. You should be able to craft items more than one at a time. Terraforming sucks, and it can be a pain in the ass to find furniture. Like, can I get a table, please? I have so many lamps, but nowhere to put them. But Animal Crossing is all about the presentation and the aesthetics. It pulls you in and it just makes you want to keep coming back. Like I said, it came out right at the beginning of a global event, nothing like anything I've ever experienced. This game allowed me to hang out with my friends in a time where we were forced to stay away from each other. And it's so much fun to experience a game together for the first time and discuss stuff and share things with friends and stuff. Say what you will, maybe I'm being melodramatic, maybe it's kind of a dumb reason to put it as my game of the year, and you know, if you think that, you're totally entitled to. But I would be lying if I said any other game had such an impact on me as Animal Crossing did this year. Plus, like, look at the little outfits I can put on my guy. He looks so handsome. That's a great outfit right there. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout the year. I've had so much fun making YouTube videos, and I love making you laugh, because you look so good when you smile. I hope everybody has a wonderful and safe new year, and I hope that you stick around for 2021. It's gonna be a great year. Maybe. I'm not gonna put myself out there making a prediction like that, because it doesn't usually work out. It'll be a year.